When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com. Edward and I are always up for a good racing game. We have mentioned this in the past, and we have a lot of different types of racing games. When watching videos on YouTube of great racing games, 1500 meters came up. It is a racing game that came out in 2018 where you are a track runner in a, 1500 meter foot race. I instantly reached out to the creator Eduardo Crespo and his company Lucky Loser Games. Edward is a cross-country and track runner. It seemed like a perfect fit. It arrived just before a vacation. I packed it, we didn't play it, and it sat longer than anticipated on the shelf of shame. However, at the last gaming meetup at the local library, Edward and I took it with us and learned and played it with two of our friends. In 1500 meters, you are a runner who has to balance mental strength with your pace as you make the 3 3/4 laps around the track. So gather your fellow athletes and see who has the mental fortitude to push the limits and be the first to cross the line after a grueling 1500 meters. Alright, welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins. Let's take a look at the rule clarity for 1500 meters. This is the main detractor of 1500 meters. English is not the game's original language, and that is apparent in the rules. They do not flow, they are not in logical order. What is weird, though, is if you just read the contents of the box and the basics of the different aspects of the board and cards, then just read how a turn works, that's really all you need to know. The rest of the rules only complicates and muddies the waters. And this isn't steeplechase. Yet. Time to explain to newcomers. Yikes, this was no picnic either. I would say it took us close to 30 minutes to go through the rules and explain everything. But as I just mentioned, if you explain the basics of the cards and the movement, then explain a full turn, the rest comes together quickly. So in the future, I would imagine it taking about 10 to 15 minutes. Gameplay. To set up, place the track/board in the middle of the playing area. Place the finish line, the straight lanes piece, off to the side. Place the lap marker disc on the 3. Each runner will need to select a color, take the runner standee, movement cards numbered 8 to 11, auction cards numbered 1 to 8, and 3 cubes of that color. Each runner needs to place a cube on the 100 at the top left of the board, representing the starting mental health, 1 on the 5 in the middle of the track, marking the starting pace, and 1 off to the side of the orange +2 square in the auction row. Randomly decide the starting order, and each runner will place their standee in the starting block of that rows, moving out from the inside lane, 1 runner per lane, and it is time to race. Each round starts with each runner selecting an auction card and a movement card in secret. Then the auction takes place. Here's how the auction works. Each runner decides how much mental strength they're willing to spend to get a higher pick in the auction row. Here are some interesting things to consider when betting during the auction. As I said, it is secret, but it is also only a one-time bid. When every runner is ready, all bids are flipped simultaneously, and the highest bidder selects first. Any ties are broken by the runner in a worse position on the track. Whatever the bet, that runner loses the corresponding amount of mental strength, whether that runner receives a bonus or not. There are 7 bonuses, but even with a lower player count, the runner who bid the lowest does not receive a bonus, but they still lose that mental strength. So, what are you betting on? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are 2 bonuses that add movement, +2 and +3. There are 2 bonuses that add 1 or 2 levels to the current pace of the runner. There are 2 spaces that add mental strength back into your mental strength track. And lastly, there's a space that allows that runner to move first no matter the current position of that runner, move through another runner, and get a +1 to the played movement card. Now that the auction is over, the movement phase begins. Starting with the runner in the lead, each runner moves forward the amount of spaces as indicated on the movement card. It takes 1 movement to move forward and inside 1 lane. It takes 2 movement to move outside a lane. Here are things to note about the movement phase. All movement must be taken. You cannot count with your finger or other object prior to starting movement. You cannot start over once you start moving your runner, and you cannot move through an opposing runner. Now, in place order, each runner applies their bonus. Next, the pace phase ends the round. In place order, each runner advances the associated pace spaces. All movement rules still apply. Mental strength is reduced by the amount listed under the pace number. For instance, a pace of 6 costs 2 mental strength, while a pace of 14 costs a whopping 10. Now, every runner has a choice to up their pace 1 spot or lower it however many desired. Lastly, the lead runner receives 2 additional mental strength subtracted for pulling the field, which would never be me. To reset, only the big cards are picked back up. Once 4 rounds have occurred, all 4 movement cards are picked back up. As the lead runner crosses the start-finish line, the lap disc is moved down 1. When it reaches 0, the finish straightaway is placed on the track, overlapping accordingly. If during any portion of the race a runner runs out of mental strength or cannot pay the required amount, many bad things happen. That runner can no longer bid at auctions. However, that runner does not count toward the amount getting bonuses, so if a runner in a 5-runner race empties of mental strength, only 3 of the remaining 4 will get a bonus. During movement, for each mental strength point that cannot be paid, movement is subtracted per the chart in the upper left corner of the board. The winner is the runner who crosses the line first and furthest in any phase. This is important to note. That means that this can occur in the movement phase, the bonus phase, or the pace phase, so balance your decisions carefully. Replayability. Certainly, 1500 meters offers a lot of replayability. There are many strategies that can be employed. I also think that the player count would make a huge difference in how it plays. I think the next time we play, we're going to use the robot runners just to add more chaos to the game. I know that Aaron and I want to play it more for sure. We just need to teach more people, especially the wife, this game so that we can get a lot more in because it has a lot more to offer. Component quality. 1500 meters does feel like an independently made game, and it is. That doesn't mean that this lucky loser game is of poor quality, though. Quite the opposite. The cards are a nice standard quality. The board is a standard quality, but it could have used a backing or wrap rather than just plain white chipboard. What stands out are the runner standees. There are 2 different poses, and each runner is made of acrylic of a solid color. This makes them easy to tell apart while playing the game. And I love these. I do advise gluing the bases to the runners, as some might fit a little snugger than others. The wooden discs and cubes are standard. I do wish they were some sort of shape like a shoe or something rather than just a plain cube and disc, because we all know I do hate cubes. Lunchtime potential. Probably not. Even after everyone knows how to play. Maybe on smaller player counts, maybe. The box lists the playtime as 40 to 75 minutes. That seems about right, but if you have a full field of 8 runners, it might be closer to 90 minutes. It's worth it, but definitely not going to fit in a lunch hour. Artwork. The artwork by Gonzo Brios fits the feel of the game. I love the depiction of the mental health deduction on the auction cards. The movement cards are nice too. I appreciate that each card has a male and female runner depicted on it, and each color is slightly different. Hair color, glasses, etc. The tracking board itself are well laid out for easy to follow usage. The box art is also fantastic. Honestly, it was really what sold me on the game. Well, that and the acrylic runner standees. Other. There are different variations you can try in the rulebook, but that is about it. You can add robot runners to fill the field and add more complexity and chaos. They do not bid during the auction phase, they always follow the highest pace, and they have no mental strength because they're robots. There are also rules for a shorter 800 meters as well. This is obviously a shorter race with different rules governing how much mental strength to start with and a few other minor tweaks. Lastly, there are advanced rules that add additional rules regarding the mental strength track. There is an additional wear mentally depending on the placement in the track, and when the final lap starts, the top 3 runners lose a point as the race intensifies. I like these rules as it makes an already thematic game hit even harder on the theme, and I think I will put these into play next time we play. Expansions. There are no official expansions. However, on the BGG page, user Kamikaze123 has created a 3,000 meter steeplechase variant and a 400 meter hurdle variant. I have the rules downloaded, but the Etsy shops selling the hurdles and steeplechase is on a small break. Bang for the buck. Well, I imported 1,500 meters. I spent a lot of money on it, but Edward and I love racing games, and it seemed like a good investment. And I have to say, I think it was worth it. I want to play it again and teach more people so that we have a pool to play with. I think it will see plenty of table time and make good use of the money spent. Summary. Edward runs cross country and track. 1,500 meters was a no-brainer for me to get for us to play. He played it like he runs, holding back a bit until the end when he makes a break for the finish. In our first game, he came up 1 spot short. 1! To me, playing my strategy of, well, I have mental health strength left, I might as well use it. So it shows off the balance of this game. When we finished our first game, all 4 of us were impressed with the game. I think we would have played another game immediately, if not for the younger kids, as they were done playing their games and, well, were ready to do something else. Upon reflection, Edward's only real complaint is the downtime. There can be some downtime between your turn to move, but this can be mitigated by each runner being ready to move. This should decrease the downtime, but it will take some getting used to. I also think that adding some robot runners will increase the engagement of the other runners in the game. My only real complaint, other than the rules, about 1,500 meters is that I have to teach more people in order to play this game more often. It takes 3 runners to get a game going, so I plan to do just that. I want to play it more. Board Game Geek has 1,500 meters with a lower than it deserves 6.9. This might be due to it only having 201 ratings. Therefore, I added my 8, and I encourage you to get a copy and rate it accordingly. 1,500 meters hits the theme hard and in the best ways possible. At first, I was a little curious how Eduardo Crespo was going to handle making this something other than just another racing game. I was worried how it was going to be something other than a roll and move. By having to balance the mental strength as a depleting resource, you were left with making very interesting decisions. Each phase, you were confronted with a meaningful decision that has an impact on the game. In the auction phase, how much are you willing to bid knowing that you're going to give up that amount no matter what? In the movement, you only have 4 options at best. Do you go full throttle and try to get ahead? Do you hang back and try to overtake later? Do you take the inside lane? The outside lane? In the pacing, how much mental strength are you willing to give up? Is it worth leading the race and taking the extra 2 mental points every turn? All of this combines to make for a very enjoyable race experience. Edward, as a runner, gives this game his seal of approval. Luckily, 1,500 meters is much easier on the heart and lungs than running a real race. As usual, you can reach out to me at eatlunchandboardgame.com, facebook.com/eatlunchandboardgame, or you can always email me at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. Give me those game suggestions. Are there other racing games we should be looking at? Let me know. And always remember, board games build bridges.